Hi, everybody. So, in today's video, we're going to be talking about section 5.7. And our target for today, so in other words, our goal for today, is to write a linear inequality when we have a graph. So, if I give you a graph, can you write the inequality that goes with that graph? Now, here are the steps we're going to follow in order to make this happen. First, we're going to identify the slope of the line that we see and the y-intercept of the line that we see. Now, as a reminder, slope is always rise over run. So all we have to do to find the slope is find two nice points on the graph and count the rise over the run. The y-intercept is always going to be on the y-axis. So the coordinates of the y-intercept are going to be 0 as the x and some number, whatever number you're crossing the y-axis at, as the y value of the ordered pair. After we find the slope and the y-intercept, the next step is going to be to determine whether the shaded area is above or below the line. If the shaded area that we see is above, we're going to use a greater than. And if the shaded area is below, we're going to use a less than. Now, we could also use a greater than or equal to or a less than or equal to, depending on what type of line we have, but the greater than or the less than is the part that we use for above or below. Then we should look at the line and determine whether the line is solid or dotted. If the line is solid, so in other words, there's no holes in it, we're going to use an equal to. So we would use a greater than or equal to or a less than or equal to. The equal to is kind of the important part here. If the line is dotted, so there are holes in it, we would use just a plain greater than or a plain less than. All right, let's take a look at some examples. So for problem number 1, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to identify the slope and I'm going to identify the y-intercept. That's step 1. So on this graph, I'm going to find two nice points. It looks to me like there are nice points right here on the -4 and right here on the 2 on the y-axis. So the slope would be rise 4, run 2, which means I would write 4 over 2. Now, since 4 divided by 2 can simplify to just plain old 2, I would do that simplification. And you should always simplify your answer if possible. Next, I'm going to find the y-intercept. Now, on this graph, the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis, so this point right here, which would be the point 0, -4. To set up my inequality, I'm going to start with the letter y. Now, I'm going to leave a space because I don't know what symbol I'm putting there yet, and then I'm going to put my starting value, which is -4, plus my slope, which is 2, and then just x, because x is 0 here, so we don't need to adjust it to get back to 0. But you're going to notice that I left a space here for my symbol, which I'm going to think about now. The shaded area of this graph is below the line. So since the shaded region is below the line, I'm going to use a less than. Next, I'm going to decide if I need an equal to or not. Since this is a dotted line, there's no equal to. So I would just use a less than for my symbol, and that would be my answer. Let's try one more example. So for the next example, I'm going to start by finding my slope and my y-intercept. To find my slope, I'm going to identify two nice points. It looks like there's a nice point here at the 3 and here at the 1. So my slope would be down 1 over 3. Now, my Y-intercept would be at the positive 1, so my ordered pair would be 0, comma 1. And now I'm going to set up my problem. So I'm going to have y, and I'm going to leave a space, and then it's start with 1, the slope is negative 1/3, and then just x because we're not adjusting the x, we're already at 0. Now I'm going to decide if I should use a greater than or a less than. In this problem, the shaded area is above the graph. So since the graph is shaded above the line, I'm going to use a greater than. In this problem, this is also a solid line. So now I'm going to include an equal to by putting a little underline underneath the symbol, and that would be my answer. Now I do want to point out one thing. Some people will write their answer like this. So all that they're doing is they're reversing the 2x and the -4 in this problem. That is totally okay. That is another correct way to write this answer. For this example, we could also reverse the negative 1/3 x and the plus 1 and get another correct answer that way as well. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you watching, paying attention, and taking really good notes, and I will see you for some practice.